Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Fonda.
I've always been an admirer of Franklin D. Roosevelt. So I was especially interested recently when I saw a movie of FDR as a young man. His fight against polio, his courage, his endurance, his will to live. It was an experience that history says had a deep influence on the leadership he gave our country as president. At a time when our country was hurt and stricken, when we all needed courage and endurance. I know another man like that with the same strong character, the indomitable will to live. And this I've known for over 15 years, ever since I read an article in the Reader's Digest by John Hersey about a young naval officer in the Solomon Islands during some of the darkest days and nights of World War II. August 2nd, 1943, in the South Pacific. A U.S. Navy PT boat is patrolling the Solomons. The Japanese fleet is everywhere. 3 miles to the northeast, 10,000 Japanese are on Kolombangara Island. 5 miles to the west is Vela La Vela, more Japanese. 1 mile south, the Japanese camp on Gizo. The PT boat is cruising quietly. At the wheel is her captain, Navy Lieutenant John F. Kennedy. Suddenly, out of the dark night, a Japanese destroyer bears down at 40 knots and rams the PT boat in two. Thrown on his back on the deck, Lieutenant Kennedy stares up to see the destroyer pass through his boat. But half the PT boat stays afloat, and Lieutenant Kennedy helps 10 other survivors hang on. Eventually, they leave the sinking hulk and swim for a small island 3 miles southwest. One man has been badly injured. Lieutenant Kennedy ties a strap to the man's life jacket and tows him with his teeth the entire distance. It takes 5 hours to swim it. Lost for 9 days in enemy territory, Lieutenant Kennedy painfully, slowly swims from island to island, reef to reef, scouting for help, watching the seas and straits for other PT boats. He drifts, floats, sleeps while being carried by the current. For days, he swims back to lead them to another island. Swimming, drifting, treading over sharp coral, once more towing the injured man with his teeth. On the 9th day, it ends. An SOS Lieutenant Kennedy had carved on a coconut shell and given to a native, got past the Japanese and reached the Allies. And finally, one of the PT boats Lieutenant Kennedy had been searching for picks them up. "Hey, Jack," someone calls from the boat. "Where have you been?" asks Kennedy. "We've got some food for you." "No thanks," says Kennedy. "I just had a coconut."
Senator Kennedy never liked talking about this himself, but I was a member of that crew, and believe me, we really had it rough. I would like you to know what the Navy said when he was decorated. His outstanding courage, endurance, and leadership contributed to the saving of several lives, and were in keeping with the highest tradition of United States Naval Service.
Courage, endurance, leadership. John F. Kennedy has them all the way, and the way has been the hard way. As president, John F. Kennedy will have the courage to meet the greatest challenge our country has ever faced. He'll have the endurance to do the work, to maintain the patience, to possess the raw nerve we need in a world where our enemies would like to win by wearing us down. And he will give us leadership for the 60s, a new American leadership for the world beyond the seas to honor and respect. FDR, a man who loved the sea. John F. Kennedy, another man of the sea. His hand will be a strong hand on the ship of state.